set them up well for success. I know you've got work for them to do, but the best thing you can do is acclimate them into your company and show them we're a professional company. I don't care if you've got 3 people. We're professionals here. I'm going to treat you as a professional, and then you're going to treat me as a professional in turn. So it just really sets that stage well.
Welcome back, everyone. Yes, it's been a week, and it is time again for our Hard Hat the CEO. This is Chris G here, and I have a wonderful guest, Carrie Roberts, and she and I just had a little realization that we've crossed paths before, which is great. So, but Carrie is here in the wonderful state of Missouri, just where I'm at, and Carrie, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Carrie, you want to give us a little background about you, and then we can get started.
So I've spent the last around 20 years working in operations and human resources. So that's in organizations like distribution, finance, insurance, higher ed, and mergers and acquisitions. And in 2023, I took that 20-year chunk of HR and ops knowledge and started my own firm. So I do consulting for small to mid-sized businesses, primarily setting them up with their HR foundations before they have an HR staff person.
Awesome. Today, we're going to talk about, and for all my listeners out there, we're going to talk about team building, keeping those teams for longevity. Also, how people get motivated and what we can do to keep that team productive, actually. So that's what you've done a lot over your time?
That's pretty much all that I've done is focused on people, the people ops side of things. Yep.
You hear a lot today about the generation. Is that really the key, or is it what's really driving the difficulty of people having to find good help? That's a big one I get asked. How do you get good help?
Yeah, I mean, that is a multifaceted question, because if we're thinking about on the recruitment and hiring side of things, I would want to look at how are you determining when you need to hire and who you need to hire, what your job descriptions look like, how you're posting those, and how you're getting your candidates in. So I want to look at that first, because without that knowledge, I come across a lot of business owners that are like, I just need help. They're casting a net. And then later they're like, this person isn't performing. And my first question is like, how did we find them? What did we tell them that the job was? And how have we set them up for success? What did training look like at the beginning? Because most people in general want to do a good job. I'm not going to say all, you know what I mean? But in general, most people want to make a fair day's wage and they want to do a good job. And so I would challenge that business owner first. How did you find them? Do they understand what success means in the role? Do they understand what they're supposed to be doing? How did we train them? Because a lot of times what I'll hear from a business owner is, oh, we're a small shop. They just needed to get in and get going. And it's like, well, if we want to hold them accountable to expectations, then we need to make sure that we've set them up for success from the very beginning.
Well, what's your recommendation on how to find them? I mean, a lot of contractors, like my listeners, are doing like word of mouth. I know that's a popular way. Not that they don't advertise, or some of them don't, but what's your recommendations?
Yeah, so word of mouth is usually going to be your strongest option, but I would say if you're going to reach out to your network, whether it's on social media or, shooting texts to your buddies or whatever, I would be very specific on what you're looking for and also why you're looking for them. So that way they can truly send you good candidates that they think would be a fit. If you're just like, hey, I'm looking for a warm body because we're having a hard time getting our work done, then that's probably what you're going to get. But if you're like, I'm needing somebody who minds the details, who's professional, who's reliable, and is specifically going to be, doing insulation or, working on finished carpentry or whatever that is, like being very specific as you can be, then those people can vet it a little bit more for you. But then at the point where you receive the name, the email address, the text message of this would be a good candidate, quick follow-up is one of the best things you can do. Most people who are looking for a job are in a new role within 38 days. That's the national average right now. And so if you kind of drag your feet to get back to them, and then you guys schedule a phone call and you don't chat for a couple of weeks, they're talking to multiple other organizations probably, because most people, if they're looking for a job, they're actively looking. They're not just like sitting on their rear end. So we want to be timely in that. And then when you're communicating with them, I know the easy thing to do is to just hire because you have a need, but I would be slow to hire and quick to fire.
I've heard
because
that one before. Yeah.
yes, and it holds true over and over and over again. I would make sure that you get the right person in the right seat on your bus instead of just bringing a person in, because you are going to deal with performance issues if you've got somebody who's misaligned. So the word of mouth is good. I would use job boards like Indeed and some of those other free job boards that are out there. But again, you need to be very clear about what you're looking for. I would put a pay range in there, their opportunity for growth, especially if you're, you mentioned generational stuff earlier. There are older generations. So let's say, I'm 42. So the generation just above me and above that, they look for longevity in the workplace. But my generation and the generations younger than me are looking for, how can I grow, develop, learn? And I don't mean like, okay, you come in as a grunt on the workplace and I'm going to promote you to team lead or supervisor. I don't mean you have to say that, but it's like, we are going to train you in this specific role. And then once you master that, and mastering it looks like this, being reliable with your attendance, making sure that you're mindful of cost, getting things completed on time. Once you master that, then we're going to cross train you in, this, utilizing this other tool or this other equipment or this other machinery, or working on larger jobs, whatever that looks like, and kind of casting a vision for them of where they can go. And that is going to attract younger workers, because they want to know that they have a purpose in their role. They're not just going to be expected to come in at, X dollars an hour and they're going to be stuck there.
So you kind of have a path for them to kind
Yeah.
of show them what can happen then.
Yeah. And in the corporate world, we call those career ladders, but you can be a very small business. You can have 3 people on your team and you still need to cast that vision to them. Like, hey, here's how I'm going to train you. Here's what I need from you. And when you master that, I'm going to help you enhance your skills, or whatever that looks like. And then asking them what their goals are and trying to
Right.
make sure those partner.
My mind's full of questions here.
Bring
I
it.
made a note. All right. So first off, you talk about slow to hire and quick to fire, right?
Yeah.
I only got 38 days, right? I mean,
On
based on
average.
your
Yeah.
average. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what's your definition of slow?
So if I hear from a candidate, or I have a client that hears from a candidate that they're interested, I want a response back to that candidate within 24 hours. Thank you for your interest in our organization. We are currently reviewing resumes. If they just reached out and said, I'm interested, hey, can you send me, it doesn't have to be anything formal, but can you send me a list of who and when and what you've worked for in the past and why you're interested in this role? So I'd give them a quick response. It doesn't have to be like, okay, we're scheduling an interview, but responding to them and letting them know, I've heard from you. Thank you for your interest. And then maybe a few follow-up questions, getting the information you need to be able to make a decision. Does this warrant time on my calendar for a phone interview? Does this warrant us sitting down for an interview? So we want to do a few things to kind of vet them a little bit from the beginning, because we don't want to waste our time as a business owner. Our time's valuable. And so getting back that information from them and then saying, okay, do you have time for a quick, 15, 30-minute call? Getting them on that call within, as soon as you hear back from them, within a couple of days, again, you want to say, thanks for your follow-up information. We need to schedule a call. So staying on it, staying in communication with them. And then I would just ask them, are you talking to other companies right now? What's your timeline? So that way they know you care, you're engaged, so that way they're more apt to say, hey, I got an offer elsewhere, or actually I'm talking to somebody else, but I'm really interested in working for you. And so you can expedite the process as appropriate. But I would say from the point where they reach you to where you are either sitting down in person with them or having a Google interview or whatever that looks like, that should all be within a week.
Okay.
And then a lot of people are like, well, I want to talk to 3 or 4 people before I make a decision. If you are a business owner who knows what they're doing, you're going to know what you want, and you're going to know if that's the right fit for you. And if you don't, you should work with an HR pro or a consultant or somebody to help you nail that down. But in general, when you get off of an interview, you should know this is a person that's a right fit for the role, or it's not. And if it's not, don't say, I want to put them on the back burner and talk to a few more people. And if I can't find someone who's better, I'll go back to this C player. Don't do that. Just tell them, thank you for your time. We're going to move on with other candidates.
So when you say slow to hire, you really mean dig deep. Just don't
Yes.
hire off the spot.
That's right. Make sure you've got your information in a row.
Yeah. The vision, does that come up during the physical interview, the face-to-face one, when you talk about vision? Is
Um,
that at that point, or
yes,
do you?
usually. Yeah, you're going
Mhm.
to know from them first if they're going to meet the minimum qualifications for the job. You're going to have all of that information first. And then essentially when you're laying out the opportunity for them, you've kind of flipped and you're selling to them a little bit. You know what I mean? You're letting
Yeah,
them know why they want to work with you, why your team's the right place to be, why they'd want to stay with you.
it's just as important to have them on your team as it be the right person as you be the right person to them as
Yes.
yeah, as the owner, business owner. Um, what I got another one. Did you ever suggest the people they work with interview 'em?
To interview, yeah, for sure. Like if that's appropriate in your organization or you have staff that can do that, the first thing I would do is to talk to the people on your team and inform them what the goal is. And I know in smaller businesses, it's like, well, this can be pretty casual and informal. You never know who you're interviewing. It might be a person who has a little legal knowledge. So you want to be cautious about who you're inviting into the interview process, because I don't want someone on your team saying something like, oh, your wife has a disability. Are you not going to be able to show up to work on time?
Yeah, you don't want to say that.
Right. But you know what?
No.
Not everybody understands that kind of stuff, or they
Oh,
think,
I
oh,
know.
it's just a one-on-one conversation. No one's ever going to know. So I would definitely want to make sure to sit down with your team and say, like, here's where we want to drill in. We want to focus on the job and the task. I've already vetted them for culture, fit, things like that. So
Right.
you are drilling into the job, the tasks, the skills, the tools, the specifics, and make
Hmm.
sure that you're kind of guiding those other people in the interview.
You mentioned softwares. Is there a particular niche that those softwares pertain to, or can you look for anybody on there?
Like when you're talking about looking on Indeed and things like
Yeah,
that.
like on Indeed, and yes.
Yeah. So when you post a role on those, a lot of times people will just go and post a job opening, and you can actually put in their minimum qualifications. Even on Facebook, Facebook has free job posts as well. That's going to cast a pretty wide net, but you can put in there specific questions that you want the candidates to answer that would help you kind of rule out certain people. Like, do you have a valid driver's license? Are you legal to work in the United States? Like, where have you worked before? Submit your resume. You can put certain qualifications, whether it's Indeed or Facebook or wherever you're posting. And I would recommend taking the time to do that. So that way you can automatically reject candidates. In those
Mhm.
systems, you can put a little blurb that says, like, thanks for applying to my company. At the current time, we're going to be moving on with other candidates, and it will auto reject candidates for you that don't meet those minimum qualifications. Most times people aren't taking the time to set that up, but I highly recommend that. It's going to save you time.
I've used Indeed before in the past, so that's pretty. It's well, I didn't understand it at first, and then I got on a customer service call with them, and
Yeah.
they explained to me how it worked. It's like, oh, this is pretty cool.
Yeah. Makes it a
Yeah.
lot easier.
So you only get the ones if you set it up right. You only get the ones in your, I guess, in your database that you really want to talk to, and it's taking care of the other ones based on the criteria you've set up. And
Right.
it does generate a nice little thank you. And if you don't want to do your own personal, I think it generates one automatically for you if you set it up that way.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And if you're looking for, let's say you're more entry level worker, then you're going to, Facebook and Indeed and your network are great ways to do that. If you're like, okay, no, I'm looking for a foreman, a superintendent, maybe somebody for my leadership team, maybe I've got a large enough of an organization that I'm needing like a operations manager, then LinkedIn is another place that you could post those more like professional level roles.
And then there's a certain you can buy LinkedIn. Isn't there a level of LinkedIn you can purchase to get a more deeper
On all of them,
information
on
on? Yeah.
Indeed, LinkedIn, on Facebook, you can do job ads. Like on all of those platforms, they've got their entry level and then they've got their buy up plans. And it just kind of depends on what your budget is, how quickly you need the role. Sometimes it's been like, how hard has it been for you to recruit? And sometimes you're just like, I'm gonna throw some money at it. But there are also, of course, you can find recruiters, which a lot of times a professional recruiter is going to take up to 20% of that first year annual pay, which is bananas. It's very expensive, but I see a lot of companies do it because they're like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have time to do this. I need somebody to do it for me. But usually a recruiter is going to take pay off the front, or there are, let's say like recruiting strategy companies. I've got partners in that are recruiters, and I've got recruiting strategy companies that I partner with and promote to my clients. But one of the companies in particular, let's say that you're like, I am a builder, but I'm wanting to scale. I know that I'm
Mhm.
going to be either through mergers and acquisitions or just through my own growth in my company, I'm going to be scaling. So I'm going to need regular new hires coming in for the next 6 months to a year. Then I would work with more of like a recruitment strategy company that will make sure your job ads are good, make sure you know what it is you're looking for, help you with the vetting questions, and help you with the initial part of that process. So that way, when you get candidates, they're well vetted. And that's a lot more of an affordable option.
Awesome. I noticed in your notes, in my notes about you, personality uh, test.
Hmm.
I seen you're pretty big in it. I do enjoy them, and I enjoy them in the fact that I like to read about how people are different.
Yeah.
And is that part of your identifying the type of person you're looking for before you go out and look for them?
Yes, in my opinion, behavioral assessments and depending on the complexity of the role, sometimes cognitive assessments as well are
Hmm.
really beneficial. And most organizations don't know how affordable that can be. Like, for example, if I'm working with a company that has under 50 employees, it's somewhere between 5 and 6 grand a year to purchase the software and then to have a person like me help you through it for the year. So it's really, really affordable in my opinion for what you get from it, because you can put your job in there and essentially, like you as the business owner, Chris, you could say, I'm going to be looking for this kind of job. You can answer a number of questions about that job and it will spit out, here's going to be the best behavioral assessment response that you could get. So then we set that up in the system. And then every candidate that you get in, you send them that behavioral assessment and you can see, do they match to what you said you needed or do they not?
Hmm.
Now, that doesn't mean that you automatically reject them, but it'll show the variance. Okay, you said that you needed high detail orientation. I can see this person's very flexible. Maybe they've been to the rules. So are you okay with that? You said you needed somebody who is quiet and puts their head down. This is a more social person. Are you okay with that? So it's going to show you the difference in some key indicators on behavior, like drive, autonomy, and flexibility and social ability and things like that. And it's going to show you where they map. And then it's going to give you a better understanding of, is this person going to be a good fit for this role based on your research?
And judge creativity as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yep, it does. It
So,
also can judge things like logic
yeah.
and
So,
emotional response.
so other than money, how much time does it take? I mean, do you send it over to and say it's going to take 5 minutes to do this assessment? I guess if they're really interested in the job, they'll take the assessment.
Yeah. And usually those assessments take somewhere between 2 and 5 minutes, depending on how quick of a reader they are.
Okay.
Yeah, really brief. And the cool thing is, whether you hire them or not, you can send them their report because it's not, I mean, there's nothing discriminatory on that report. It's literally just based off of what they put in is what they get out. And so,
Yeah.
it's something fun and interesting that you could say, hey, you can take this. And even if we're not a fit, I'm going to send you your report over. It's just interesting. A lot of people are like, oh, okay, cool. I'll do that.
And then you can use it, and you can tell them they can use it for their next interview. That
Absolutely.
somebody's actually looking for that. So,
Yeah.
okay, let's suppose that I've hired someone and talk about the training.
Yeah.
Small companies have well, I would say if it's important to you, which it should be, training is it's just an investment. But how do you look at training as far as smaller companies? Do they need a process? What's your suggestions?
Yeah. So, and ironically, I've got a podcast as well. It's called Don't Waste the Chaos. And I just put out an episode last week and it was talking about like I think it was 5 things that small business owners should do before they bring on their next hire. Because
Hmm.
most small business owners aren't doing these things because they're like, well, we're small, we all just we're jack of all trades, we all just jump in. And it's like, if you're wanting to recruit somebody who's worked for a legitimate company in the past, then you need to be a legitimate company now. So when it comes to training and development, let's say even onboarding. So at the very beginning, we want to make sure from the very beginning that they understand, just let's start with the basics. They understand when they're going to get paid, the frequency in which they're going to get paid, and how they're going to get paid. Let's just, like making sure they understand that we get their tax paperwork, that we get their completed I-9 to make sure that you're legally employing them. And so we get those basics done, and that's very simple. I would also say, you mentioned like other than compensation, Are you going to offer any benefits? And benefits don't have to be like, oh, a big medical plan. Benefits can be other things. We offer flexible work, or we give you some paid holidays, or whatever that looks like, outlining whatever that is. And for really small businesses, there's cool opportunities to do things like lifestyle spending accounts that aren't government regulated. And you can put money into an account, and then they can use that to get individual health plans off the federal marketplace, medical, vision, dental, and they're very affordable. Most people don't know about those kind of things. Or
No, can
tons
you,
of options.
what do you call it? Lifestyle?
Spending account.
Is it like well, back, I'm going to show my age. Is it like an HSA? The health
That's not
savings
showing your
account?
age. Those are still real. So
Okay.
an FSA, an FSA, which is a
I haven't
flexible
been in the
spending
corporate
account.
world for years, so
No, I hear you. There's flexible spending accounts. There's healthcare spending accounts. A lifestyle spending account is different in that you can set up what they can spend it on. And it doesn't have to be like something that is government regulated that has to be like a medical expense. So let's say, for example,
right.
I wear this ring. I don't know if you can see this on the video. It's called an Aura ring. Tracks my sleep, my steps. For women, it even tracks their menstrual cycles. It tracks tons of things. They're around $350. So I have a lifestyle spending account for my team, my consulting business, and
Yeah.
I put $350 in it a year. That's not a lot. But for my team, they love that. And they can go buy an Aura ring. They can get therapy sessions with that. They could even use it for fertility treatments, like things that aren't covered under basic medical plans. So there's a ton of options out there to make yourself more appealing from a recruitment perspective. And then it becomes a retention perspective because you've got cool benefits for them. And they're outside of the box. They're not like your Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield plan. Because if you've got under 25 employees, you don't have to have those big plans. You just don't. I mean, it's tough on a business owner to pay for all of that. And so I would think outside of the box when it comes to that kind of thing. But let's get back to learning and development. So
Okay.
making
Sorry.
sure that they
Got a little excited.
understand.
You got me excited there, Frozen.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I get excited about it too, because most business owners don't know about that kind of stuff. But I would make sure they're set up well with everything that you have to offer. Your policies, I'd recommend you have a handbook, even if it's a rudimentary one of, if they're driving equipment, if they're utilizing your tools, what all of that looks like, your rules, how to follow them, where they can find your policies. So get all of that done within the first day or two. Set them up well for success. I know you've got work for them to do, but the best thing you can do is acclimate them into your company and show them we're a professional company. I don't care if you've got 3 people. We're professionals here. I'm going to treat you as a professional, and then you're going to treat me as a professional in turn. So it just really sets that stage well. And then from there, I would set up a plan. It's going to sound more formal than it is, but set up their training plan. How much time are they going to spend with you as the owner, understanding what type of business that we go after, what type of client we usually work with, what our timelines usually are for products and projects, and what our expectations are, what stores that we shop at to get our tools and supplies if they're going to be in charge of any of that. Like setting up those expectations. Most people are like, they'll learn as they go. And then they're going to do the wrong thing, and then you're going to be ticked, right? Like they're going to drop the ball, something's going to happen. So take some time to think through what are all of those things, either mistakes that your team has made in the past that you've had to go correct after the fact. But I'd make a list of never evers or whatever that looks like, of things that your new employees should know. And as the owner of the business, it would behoove you to sit down for 30 minutes, 1 hour, take them to lunch, whatever it looks like, and go through those things. And then I'd say, okay, now from here, it's going to be on the job training. You're going to be working with Dan tomorrow for half a day, and you're going to work with Scott for half a day the day after that. And Dan's really good at this, so he's going to work on this with you. And Scott's really good at this, and he's going to work on this with you. And I'd say for your first week, here's what it looks like. Now, you and I both know it's going to be more informal than that. But when they first come on board, you're going to lay out, here's what training looks like. And boom, you've got a training plan. Now this person is like, oh man, I feel more confident. I know I'm going to get good training. This is an official business. And so then later when you're like, hey, you're not meeting expectations, you as the business owner are able to sleep well at night and say, we trained you. We know we did. We invested the time.
Talk about investments, and you are spending some time, either your time or your company's time. Somebody spends some time with this new employee.
Yeah.
How do you do retention? Meaning keeping them there with you. And I'm not saying keeping them happy, but that is important. But keeping them as a good employee that sees your vision of the company.
Yeah. I would say, what if once a month you all met up at Denny's at 10 a.m. and had breakfast and sat down to talk about, you can use it for business and you can use it for connection, for team building. So we're going to go over breakfast. We're going to go over all the projects that are going on right now, everything that's in the pipeline, and how we're doing, how we're meeting goals, meeting timelines, delivering results. So we're going to sit down and have breakfast once a month and do that. That is something that will build rapport with your team. They're going to feel like they're part of something instead of everyone running in different directions at all the time and not having any idea, like, is this business going well? Like, are we profitable? Am I succeeding? What does this look like? I would say once a month, get your team together. It can be something simple. If you have a building on your property where they can come and you can brew a pot of coffee and have a breakfast casserole, like, it doesn't have to be complicated, but getting
Sure.
them all together and just kind of talking about the business. Most of the time, especially in small businesses, we just assume that everyone's fine with going their own way. They want to know, how's this going? Like, how are we doing? Do we have more business coming? Do I have more work? Will this be consistent? Like, do other team members perform as well as I do?
The reason I laugh, I have a short in my YouTube videos. People just want to know. And they just do want to know.
They
They're
want to
curious.
know. In the
Yeah.
absence of information, they are going to fill in the blanks, and they're going to use
Oh, yes, they are.
uneducated opinions to fill in the blanks. So let's say you don't tell them how the business is doing, and then when it's cold, you seem to be like, let's not work. Their wife's going to be like, is it because you all don't have work? Will you have work next month? Like, how are we going to pay the bills? So you just need to fill in the blanks for them.
My
So they're not.
daughter and my poor son-in-law, he works concrete, and it's cold right now. And that poor boy, she hammers him. Oh, my lands. Well, what do you mean you don't have work? I was like, well, honey, I mean, I ain't expect it's like, it's can't pour concrete in this type of
everything.
weather.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
his boss ought to find some other work if he's trying to keep, but because no pouring concrete means no cash flow.
Yeah.
But and he has expanded into other services, but that type of thing. And a lot of people, like you said, I think maybe even as humans, we automatically go to the worst.
Yeah.
We think the worst just because. And I'm a
Especially
landlord.
when our money is tied to it.
Oh yeah, I get calls from well, I used to, I don't anymore, but I used to get calls from my renters. I got a water leak. It's all over the floor. Well, to me, a water leak all over the floor is like I got a flood.
Flood,
Or they
yeah.
say it's a flood, and I get there and it's just a little leak coming out underneath the dishwasher or whatever, and it's like it's all perspective
Yeah.
and where you're at.
So I would say, in addition to those team meetings, one other thing I want to mention is performance management ongoing. So on their first day of employment as the business owner, I want you to go into your calendar and I want you to count 60 days or 2 months and put a calendar reminder for yourself to check in with that new hire. Really, you should be doing it probably 2 weeks, 1 month, and then 60 days. But I get it. You guys are busy. So I'd put it at least at a minimum of 60 days. And I want you to sit down with that employee, whether it's on Google or in person, and say, hey, how's it going? Do you feel like you've had all the training that you need? How is it working with the team? Do you feel like you're integrating well? Is there anything that we can do to help you? Here are some observations that we have on your performance. Like, let me give you a little bit of feedback. That's very, very important. And I'd say at a minimum, every 6 months, just sit down and have that conversation. I'm a big proponent of actually doing a performance review. So that way that protects you. If you want to terminate that person later, you've got a record of actual performance that also helps you to make a good objective opinion on if they need a pay raise or anything like that. But if you're not going to do it formally, at a minimum, do it informally. And then the next time you get back to your desk or can do a voice memo on your phone, shoot yourself a little message like, hey, had a performance conversation with this employee. Here's what I share with them. Here's what they share with me. So at least then you have a little bit of an employment record for them, should you need it at some point.
When I was in college and I had a human resource class, and the main thing I took from that human resource class is document, document, document.
You have to.
Yeah, each state's different too, based on the laws, and you ought to know those, at least kind of the gist of them. And as a business owner, how, if you have employees, how that all works out. So,
Yep.
Before we go, and I'm having a good time here.
You're getting a little pre-consulting yourself here.
How do you motivate employees or keep them motivated or to that extent? I'm a big proponent of profit sharing. That's just my opinion. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, there's a number of different ways. One is making sure that they feel like they're a part of something. If they don't feel included in the team, if they don't know you as the owner or understand your purpose, vision, values, or any of that, they don't have anything to attach to, then it's a lot easier to walk away because they're detached from the organization. It's just money at that point. So I'd say first and foremost, make sure they're included in something bigger than themselves.
And
Second,
that monthly meeting would help with that.
it would.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just the performance conversations help with that. Like just showing them that you care and staying connected with them makes a difference. Other than that, it is almost impossible to motivate another human. It just is. Some people are money motivated, some are not. Some people want attention, accolades, pats on the back. That makes other people uncomfortable. It's important as a leader to understand that team member. And remember when I was talking about during the interview process, like asking them their goals and making sure you can align the company goals with it. It would be great to take a couple quick notes. This guy said his goals were to whatever, save up for XYZ, be able to buy a home of his own. Him and his wife are going to have a baby in 2 years, whatever it is. So you can tie back to their personal goals and desires. Because when you can talk to them about, you said I know that you're working toward whatever it is in your personal life, and this is going to help you get there. But when it comes to profit sharing, I love to hear that. I think that every job should have some kind of bonus structure attached to it. So we set very clear goals. I call them metrics. That sounds scary to some people, but we're setting clear objectives. So let's say in a construction sense, we might say that your number one goal is to stay at budget or under, and your number two goal is to hit timeline or less than. So if you do both of those things, if you hit both of them at the minimum, good job. If you do even better, if you come in 5 days early, or if you come in 5% under budget, then I'm going to give you a bonus of X percentage of the overall revenue of the job. I would set something up to where it's not horrible for you or your accountant or the person who's doing the paychecks. Don't make it harder for yourself to where you can't
I
actually
agree
do
with that.
this. Make it
Because you make it
easy to calculate.
complicated.
Yes.
You make it
So many people
complicated.
want to do all these.
My
Yes.
gosh, when I first started out at a corporate life, there was this complicated, and you had to jump through hoops and nobody understood it. And then you had people talking to each other in the background. I was like, do you understand? And everybody's going to talk. I mean, typically that's not a blanket statement, but people talk and they know something. And you're just getting that grapevine started. And I like the grapevine. You just want the grapevine to have good stuff, not necessarily negative.
Yes. Yeah. And going back to the Obama administration, a law was passed that employees can talk about their pay and you can't do anything about it as an employer. Now we can talk about the impact on culture and, like how we care about that, but ultimately we cannot penalize anyone for talking about their pay. And so let's just make sure we're paying everyone adequately and people understand their bonus structures. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, just take that off the table. So that way no one wants to gossip or care about that because everyone's being paid equitably.
On an issue, yeah.
They understand how bonuses work. It's not overly complicated and it's not creating extra work for you later to figure it out every single month when you're trying to close the books for the month and then figure out how they get paid. They need to know, because if you're truly looking for motivation from a financial perspective, they need to know how to hit those goals. But at your monthly meeting, I would say, like when you're sitting down for breakfast, hey, 7 out of 8 of y'all hit your goals. We're hitting timelines, we're hitting budgets. And because of that, we've paid out X amount of dollars so far this year.
Mm-hmm.
That is motivating.
I'm going to rewind just a tad bit. Go back to those personality assessments.
Yeah.
Does that personality assessment help you figure out what type of person, or I guess not everybody's different. I understand that. My question is, depending on the type of person, is that more than likely they're motivated by something like a pat on the back versus monetary or surprises? Some people just like surprises. Does it give you any of that type of information?
I mean, it's going to help you see, let's say that someone's higher on the social scale or they're higher on drive. So let's say if they're high on drive and high on social, that means they want to set their own path. They want to have some autonomy in their job, but they're also socially motivated. So they love being in a team and seeing the team succeed. So you can surmise some of that information, But I would also say a really good book to read is,
Mhm.
have you ever read Love Languages by Gary Chapman?
I know, no, I have not read it, but I know I've heard some people, other people have recommended it to me.
That's great in your marriage. But if from a workplace perspective, there is a book called Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace. And I usually have my team members read that book and score themselves. So that way I just know, oh, I've had a thing in the past where I've had an employee that I was like, I am paying her, I'm bonusing her, I am patting her on the back, I'm telling her how important she is to me. And she just is constantly like, I don't feel valued. I don't feel valued. We go through this text and I realize she wants her teammates to respect her and she didn't feel valued by her teammate. It had nothing to do with me. I couldn't have even loved her enough, like it was
It
never
wouldn't
going
have
to
made a
be.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that book is a good one to do languages of appreciation in the workplace. And speaking of team building, you could say, okay, y'all, we're all going to do, either audiobook. I'm going to pay for your all's audiobook on Amazon, or I'm going to do a paperback book. You tell me what you want. We're all going to read this over the next month. You're going to take the assessments and then we're going to talk about it.
At our next meeting on,
Yeah. And it's just like, okay, that's something that we can all discuss together. We're all growing, learning, have something to communicate. It's team building.
some of my listeners, and if you're a larger contractor, you had different shifts.
Yeah.
We treat them all the same. Is a second, really big third shift. Do you have other shifts how do you find those people? Some people just don't work well in different hours.
Yeah.
How do you sort those out?
Yeah. So that when it comes to the behavioral assessment specifically, that's some of the, like if they're very social and they're working a swing shift where they're more isolated, that's
Mhm.
probably not going to be a good fit. But that's that goal conversation from the very beginning. You want to understand, like, if they're like, my girlfriend is my best friend and we love spending time together. Well, how's this shift going to impact that? Because then, that girlfriend's going to be like, I never get to see you. I hate this job. You
Yep.
know what I'm saying? I hate this
No,
job.
I don't. Yeah.
And they're going to quit. And so understanding their goals from the very beginning and a little bit about their personal life is going to help you understand. But I have seen, especially in construction and laborers, I've heard a lot of people say, well, they hired me for swing, but they told me that usually within the first year or 6 months, I'll have the opportunity to move to a different shift.
Right.
I've worked with multiple people from like a private client perspective. They're like, what do I do? Because now I have to quit my job because they're saying there's nothing available. And so now I feel stuck and now I'm going to leave and go find a place where I can find a day shift that's I'm probably going to have to go to nights first and then I'm going to work my way up. Just be honest with people, communicate with them. One of the guys that I talked to who'd been working overnights, he'd been doing it for 18 months and essentially no one followed up with him. And so instead of him following up with them, he was like, I'm just going to leave. And I said, well, hey,
Yeah.
why don't you go talk to them and say, what's going on? This is what you promised. I like it here. I want to work here. It really is communication based. And so many times we don't want to deal with those problems. So we don't talk about them. That is not actually making anything better. It's making everything worse. So just addressing it, just going in and addressing it. First of all, it's going to build grit and resilience for you as a business owner or a leader because you're hitting things head on. And then you're going to have confidence in yourself that you can deal with those issues. But second of all, you're going to fill in the blanks for that person and let them know, hey, we love the way you're working. We want you to be here. There's nothing open right now in an earlier shift, or maybe you're a day shift and you want to go to nights. We're working on it for you. We're
Mhm.
working on it with you. You know what I mean?
You're the first one available. I mean, you are at the top of the list.
Yes.
We're waiting for that perfect opportunity.
Mhm.
What I also found is you talking about grit and so forth, that as we dread things, and we talk about humans we dread the things the worst, and they're not near as bad as you think they're going to be. And then when you get done, it's like, well, that wasn't so bad. And then hopefully remember that. So next time it's not and you stretch yourself too. You've expanded your reality as far as what you can do, what you can do, and how it's more than likely going to turn out anyway. So
Yeah, you'll feel that confidence the next time that you're encountering that issue. You'll be like, I've done this. I'm not even worried about it the second time. It's just that first time that like builds up all this heat for you.
sure. Before we go, tell me a little bit about your podcast. Don't waste the chaos, right?
Yes. Yep. So actually I don't know when this episode's going to go live, but January, for where we're recording this right now, next
Mhm.
week will be 1 year of my podcast. And I've recorded every single week for 1 year. And no signs of stopping. I thought, oh, am I going to have 52 topics in this first year when it comes to HR and people? I am nowhere close to touching the tip of the iceberg when it comes to people and operations. So,
I've had the
yeah,
same. I was like, well, this is great, and getting guests, and then this is wonderful stuff,
yeah,
and it just kind of evolves as you talk and so forth. Well,
yeah.
congratulations on that.
Thank you. So I've got that show. And then I'm also, my first book should come out in March. I'm writing a 3-part series of HR books. And essentially the first one's going to be that business foundation. So you're a small business. What do you need? What can you do yourself? Kind of DIY your HR at the very beginning. And then the second and third book will kind of expand on those for larger businesses or businesses that are really wanting to get into learning and development and employee engagement and satisfaction and things like that. So my first one should come out in March. And then I've got my consulting business. It's called Salt and Light Advisors.
Mhm.
And we do business consulting for small to mid-sized businesses, specifically focused on that HR and people operations side of things. We do either fractional work, so we're your outsourced HR person, or we do project-based work. So we come in and revamp maybe one area for you. Maybe it's building your handbook or building out your performance review process or helping you get a bonus structure in place or whatever. So we can do project-based work like that too.
All right, and that information will be in the and your website and so forth. We'll have contact information below in the show notes. And if there's stuff like this on human resource that you want to discuss further with Carrie, or we can discuss other things with Hard Hat the CEO in the show notes, you can get a hold of me at my website. And also, I've got a VIP event coming up in March, and it'll be and you can go to the show notes and find more information about that as well. So, Carrie, thank you for your time today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been
And
fun. I love talking about this stuff.
no, you got me all wound up. So you guys have a great day, and we'll talk to you later.